Hey everybody, welcome to Solutions from the Multiverse. I'm Adam Braus.
I'm Scott Moppin. We're back.
Another episode.
Yeah.
Another dog, another day. Let's do it.
All right. So what do you got for us this week?
Oh
Adam?
my God. Okay, so this is I want to tell the solution, but the solution's going to make more sense when we take a little bit of look at the problem.
Okay.
Okay, but the solution is, well, I'll put it this way. People don't understand how to raise self-esteem. People think it's important to raise self-esteem. The way to raise self-esteem is to have a person create social value.
Okay.
So that's a lot, but basically the idea is if you want to increase someone's self-esteem,
Yeah.
you want to give them opportunities to have them contribute to social value, to have them create and participate in social value.
Thereby then increasing their own sense.
Their self-esteem will
of
be
self-esteem.
higher. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. That's the solution. But it's a bit convoluted. Like, why would we want that? You know,
Right.
Yeah. And those are good
So
questions.
so clearly you've done a lot of thinking to get to that distilled of a three-pronged structure.
Yeah.
What brought you along that path? How did you get there?
Yeah, that's a good question. So actually, this is a chapter in one of my books. So one of my books is called Motivate.
Okay.
So whatever, it's available wherever books are sold.
Not whatever, that's awesome. A
Yeah.
book called Motivate,
Yeah,
written by
Motivate.
Adam Braus.
That's right.
Available on Amazon, other book places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get into some bookstores pretty
So
soon
then
here.
this is a thing that you've dug into and examined
Evidence-based.
clearly
Yes.
before.
Yeah, the
All
book.
right.
Yeah, the book is basically evidence-based educational research, all about how to increase people's motivation to learn.
Okay.
And a big thing you see again and again and again in educational type settings is like, well, the students would do better if they had higher self-esteem, and they'd do less drugs, and they'd have less premarital sex if they had more self-esteem. This is like what you hear people say. And it's an interesting, very common, interesting kind of idea. Oh, self-esteem is good. Self-esteem makes people more successful in general.
Right. Yeah.
It's a very widely held belief.
Yeah. It makes people more resilient, more resistant against like bullying or different types of like, different things that could go wrong. Having a higher self-esteem is going to be better across the board for sure.
Yeah. So I dug into this question of like, well, first of all, is that true? Is self-esteem actually a good thing? Second of all, how do you actually build self-esteem? You know, because there are like a lot of these things called self-esteem workbooks out there. And anyways.
Well, and the person can be like, well, I figured it out. We have to build the self-esteem to make the kids better. But it's how do you,
does it actually
thank you. But
yeah. And the kind of the simple thing is like, well, if you kind of tell people, if you just tell young people or tell people you have value, you are great, you are worthy, you know, of love. That all is great, but actually it doesn't increase self-esteem.
I could see that general of a thing,
but it doesn't.
Yeah, not specifically making me feel like, all right, well, that's definitely directed at me, the person, and not a general thing to make the sayers feel better.
Right, exactly. It kind of just makes you feel like you did something.
Right.
But did you really accomplish? So basically what it breaks down in, this is kind of funny. So people think self-esteem is a good thing. And this goes back way back to like, it's a very American thing. So the idea is of that self-esteem is good. Probably one of the earliest people to like write this down that it's good is Max Weber, the American philosopher guy.
Okay.
And like or kind of early psychologist. And he just says it, saying, you know, a lot of people, just like nowadays, people just say it, well, it must be good. And then basically that just goes through all the way through until this guy in the 60s or in the 80s, he wrote a book called The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. And he's a psychologist and everything, but his psychology is more based on just like his experience as a clinician. He didn't actually do any research.
Okay.
So, but everything changes in the 2000s. In the 2000s, like right at the year 2000, we started to see a ton more actual quantitative psychological research. And that made it so that people actually said, hey, wait, are all these like things that people just sort of said, are they true or not? Like, does social self-esteem make you more successful?
Right. And if it is true, we should be able to design experiments and prove that and demonstrate it for good. You know?
Exactly. So in the 80s, and when there was this kind of self-esteem mania, we've had these kind of waves of self-esteem mania in America. But in the 80s, we had a major self-esteem mania wave. And actually, a politician here in California was like, we got to raise students' self-esteem, young people's self-esteem. If we do, they'll do less drugs, they'll have higher grades, they'll participate in less premarital sex. He basically thought this will just cure, this is a panacea.
All these other things that we're trying to
Everything's
address.
coming from low self-esteem.
Okay.
And a lot of times people think this, if we just had higher self-esteem, we'd kind of solve all the problems of young people, solve all these problems, right? Okay, so then the researchers come along. Okay, so here's what it turns out. This is the cool thing. The researchers found that self-esteem does just two things. It feels good.
Okay.
If you have high self-esteem, it just feels good. You
Feels good.
You just like being who you are.
Sure.
So it feels good. Okay, that's positive.
Yeah.
We want people to enjoy their lives, be happy or whatever, feel good.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing it does is it actually increases risk-taking behavior. And that's it. Those are the only two things self-esteem does.
Wait, that second one doesn't seem like it would necessarily
Exactly.
be a good one.
I know. It's a double-edged sword.
Especially for young people. If we turn up the risk-taking
what
behavior.
do they do? They smoke more cigarettes, they do more drugs, they have more premarital sex.
Right. All the things
all
that you're
the
trying.
things he thought he was going to get rid of.
Okay.
It's actually increasing. And there's one other thing that it does. And this is I think where maybe it's one of the good reasons why we should really try to produce more of it in young people is it protects young women against eating disorders.
Oh.
Young women with low self-esteem are prone to eating disorders. Those same young women, if you build up their self-esteem, it acts as a kind of vaccine,
more resilient,
kind of a vaccine against eating disorders.
Interesting.
So that's a good reason to
gone
do
there directly. I would not have thought of that.
Yep. So that's kind of what the research really shows. So self-esteem will actually increase premarital sex and cigarette smoking, and it will not increase your grades because that's not a risk-taking behavior. That's just hard work or whatever.
Well, then that takes me back to the first question, which is then do we want to increase self-esteem if it's going to make people smoke more or, do more risky behaviors?
It is, but I mean, I think, okay, that's a good question. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should just turn everyone into craven,
That was not what I was arguing for. But I'm curious, how do we jump over, how do we get the benefits of a high self-esteem populace without everybody, walking out into traffic because they're like, I'll probably make it.
Yeah, I'm amazing. I think you just you want to increase people's self-esteem, I think, because you want the people to feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
You actually do want risk-taking behavior so that people try new things, invent things, go out on a limb and like write a book or, paint a painting or, whatever, travel or something. You want that risk-taking behavior. Also entrepreneurs. This is part of the reason why you find, these kind of big time millionaire, billionaire entrepreneurs. A lot of times you ask them what made you successful. They're like, I had high self-esteem. They're not wrong because that actually made them want to take more risk-taking behavior. That's what ended up.
It was just part of the chain, not the thing that magically did it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the same sort of thing, like, I think con artists prey on people with low self-esteem. That's one of the things they look for is like, who's someone that I can exploit
like a victim
and push these buttons and get what I want or whatever. Right, and that's the same thing as being more resilient, I think, against eating disorders. I feel like in general, that sort of better resilience would, if you have stronger self-esteem, I think you get hoodwinked less, just in general.
Yeah, I think you're right.
We
should design a study. That would be a fun study to design because psychologists are always tricky, right? They're always like, okay, what we want you to do is this thing. But then what they're actually studying is like why you sat next to the person that you did or whatever.
Right. The control aspect of that study is boring, but the experiment part of it is kind of like a prank show for a like a reality prank show where you're like, I'm just testing people. I don't know. We're seeing how you bounce back after I mess with you.
So here's Ashton Kutcher. It's weird that he's here, but he's going to be talking to you a little.
When the person gets upset, you're like, it's science. You can't be mad at science.
Oh, there might be ethical concerns. We might have to fill out a little. We don't want to hurt people.
I'm sure.
This would be a cool study.
I'm sure there are ways around
will
that.
you be less hoodwinked? I don't know how to say that. Are you less gullible if you have higher self-esteem? This is a great research question. This would be a fantastic PhD sort of psychology, PhD sort of thing. Yeah.
It would be fun. It would be fun for someone who's studying that sort of thing to like, I feel like it could be fun to dive into. I'm not that person.
Yeah. I've always wanted to design my own. I've never done like an actual real study, like really design my own study. I've always wanted to do that though.
What would you, do you know what it would be, or you just want to be?
This is a good idea. This is a good idea. Maybe we should do it. The Solutions can fund with all the money that Solutions has. We can put some of the slush fund.
Some of that mega podcast bucks.
Yeah.
All the podcast money flowing around.
Oh my God. It's
amazing.
We just
nab some, use it to build these multi-billion-dollar
Just fish it out of the pool. There's a bunch of money in the pool from the party last night.
As soon as someone starts a podcast, you have to stop like people banging on your door trying to hand you money.
Oh my God. Bags of money.
Too many dollars.
Where do we even put them?
Yeah.
I have a lot of it up in the loft.
Oh, the money loft?
Yes. That's where I put most of the bags when they come.
That explains the name.
And then the other day, someone at the party, they just dumped it all in the pool. And everyone was like, it's so fun. We love having a podcast. This is the best book. Yeah, life is awesome.
That's what happens.
That's our lives. Yeah. That's normal.
Totally true. 1000%
Because
true.
they had such high self-esteem.
I would feel like I would probably, if I had a pool full of money, I think that could increase my self-esteem.
Let's get vulnerable, Scott. Let's share our self-esteem on a scale of 0 to 10.
Oh, we're not allowed to use negative numbers? I'm gonna have to do some recalculation now. Hold on.
I feel like my self-esteem is clinically high. Too high, really.
Too high?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Too high. I'm so confident. I'm overconfident.
Is this when we call out your Twitter handle and say, AJ Braus, if anyone wants to cut you down to size?
Oh, yeah, please do.
Tweet at AJ
I need it.
If anyone wants to help build me up from my negative numbers, tweet at Scott Maupin.
That's right. We need to build Scott up. We need to bring Braus down. And then someday, the Twain shall meet.
Yeah. Well, now I can plug the show's Twitter, which is at SolutionsFTM.
At SolutionsFTM.
There we go. I got it out of the way.
And tweet. You can tweet at any of us. You can tweet at the show.
Yeah.
And we're gonna engage the crap out of anybody who tweets at us because it's gonna be fun to have this conversation on Twitter.
Have you always had have you always felt like you had a high self-esteem, or has that always been a thing that kind of feels like a strength of yours?
I think I've kind of always had a strong, just kind of built in. Yeah. I mean, it's probably the way I was raised.
No, I think that's a good read. Yeah. I think from the first time I met you years ago, I think that was the read I got. I was like, I was a very confident, like self-assured guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Overconfident, I think is the right word.
I didn't.
Overconfident.
That was not my initial. I've since come to think of obviously overconfident. No, but no, it was. I think that's a good read on you.
I'm kind of like an Italian police officer who's directing traffic. I'm like, hey, let's it go. And then no, you don't know, you go, and then you come, and people are like, this guy is over the top.
Just
what is he?
Filled with energy from the jump.
Why is he directing traffic like that? But okay, wait. So
this is not even Italy.
So let's go back to the solution. So maybe we want to create self-esteem because we want to protect young women from eating disorders. Men too, I guess. Some men have eating disorders as well. Obviously, more prevalent with women. But yeah, high self-esteem. We also want people to just enjoy their lives.
General benefit.
And we do want people to take risks, but we want to alloy any kind of increase of self-esteem also with increase in judgment. If you improve people's judgment at the same time. So if you improve people's self-esteem, but you also teach them, sex ed, so they use contraception,
that
whatever.
Can counteract the risk-taking behavior.
Exactly.
Right.
You teach them that cigarettes are horrible for you and show them pictures of, cancer growing out of people's faces. They're going to be like, oh, shit, I'll take risks some other way, like starting a business or doing something creatively risky or something.
Putting someone behind the wheel of a car is a risk-taking behavior, but teaching them with driver's ed or getting them a license first
is smart.
It puts them with that power and that risk-taking activity, but with a greater sense of knowledge and ability.
Right. So let's say we do want to increase self-esteem, which I think we do. Okay. So then the question is, how do we do it? And the standard way that people think is through this kind of sort of affirmation strategy. Oh, people care about you. You're worthy of love. You're great. And I think that's all lovely, but it turns out in the actual research, it doesn't actually increase self-esteem. It doesn't do that. Oh my God, I have to tell you how we measure self-esteem. It's so freaking cool. Okay. So if you ask people, how much do you care about, how much do you love yourself? How much self-esteem do you have? Unfortunately, people give what are called ego defensive answers because nobody wants to be like, I hate myself. I think I'm a horrible, human sludge. Nobody wants to say that. So if you just ask a bunch of people, they all just say like 5, 6, 7. They all just say hi or okay.
Right.
Because they just want to protect themselves and not, lose face by saying they don't actually like themselves.
People say, how's it going? You go, fine.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So guess what? This Belgian psychologist, I can't remember his name. You got to read the book to find his name. But anyways, this Belgian psychologist was driving around Belgium in like the 60s or whatever, the 80s. And he was like, I like some license plates and I don't like other license plates. And in Belgium, license plates were just red letters on white background, and they were just letters and numbers, just 6 letters and numbers matched together.
It's not like different designs. They're just
all exactly the same
to the same design, but just with different letters.
He just was like, I like some of them, and I just don't care for the other ones.
Okay.
So he he's kind of a crazy psychologist guy. He started to write down all the ones that he liked. Mm-hmm. And then he would write down other ones that just for control that he just didn't care at all about. And he wrote down this long list of both. And then he sat there and he racked his brains. It was like, what is doing it? What is making me like these? And he figured out that the ones he liked have letters that are in his name.
What?
Yes. Human beings like words and strings of letters. If there's letters from your name in it, you will just like that better.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can actually test someone, and if you don't have high self-esteem, you don't like it. It's a proxy for your own self-love.
So the letters in your name trigger some sort of response, and if you have a high self-esteem, that's a positive association, and if you have a low self-esteem, it's
a null or a negative experience.
Oh, that I was just about to suggest that we start naming all babies every letter of the alphabet so that they just have positive lives going forward. But you're saying that's not the fix.
No. Okay. It's not the fix. Although, good idea. I don't know how you pronounce that.
Yes, very good idea. Put it on the
solution.
We'll put it on the list of good
episode.
ideas. Yeah. Scott's Good Idea Show.
That could be a really good complimentary. Eventually, Scott, you're going to have a solution. It's going to hit you like a ton of bricks.
Like a broken clock.
And you're going to be like, oh my. And it's going to be the best thing on the whole show.
I'm going to blow your mind. You're going to be like, bring another dumb one on me. And then I'm going to give you a good one. And you'll be like, what just happened? Stop
the show. Stop. This is it.
But today is not that day. No. That's not today.
Name a baby every letter. Maybe. Let's leave that. Let's leave that in the hopper for a while.
Have you met my daughter, Abica?
I was going to say, I thought you might give it. Wow.
Perfect.
You went for it. What about the middle name?
I've been learning the alphabet for a very long time, Adam. I know it.
Wait, so self-esteem.
Self-esteem?
You can't get it just through affirmations. Doesn't work. We do want it.
Wait, so the Belgian guy
figured out a way to measure it.
He's measuring it because of his letters from his name are in these license plates. But how does that give him, is there like a unit of self-confidence?
Yes, so then he derived from that a survey that you can give people, and you just say, label which ones you like of these lists of words. And then you just say, you just make a list of the words you like and the words you don't like. And from that, implicitly, a psychologist can read it and say, you have exactly this score of self-esteem. And it's accurate.
Fascinating.
Yeah. It's been studied. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Isn't that cool?
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we know
we can measure it.
We can identify it. Yeah. We can measure it. And you're saying to increase it, what do we do?
Yeah. So here's the thing. This goes back to the solution, which is create and participate in social meaning. Mm-hmm. So if you the way I say it is give them power tools. Okay. That's a simple way to think about it. So
what do you mean?
Give them power tools. So say you're at school and the benches in the bleacher benches they all get kind of wonky. Mm-hmm. And then every year or 2 years, they need to be straightened. And it's just straighten them. You have to take them apart and put them back together again, and then they get straight or something, some kind of management.
Sure.
Okay. Have the students do that.
Okay.
If the students do that work, then every time they go into the gym, they're like, I made those bleachers work. And every time they pull out the bleachers and everyone has a pep rally, they sit down and they're like, I straightened these bleachers last year. That was so cool. That's the kind of thing that's what increases self-esteem, that you provided a value that is a value to everyone, not just a value to you. If you just say oh, I really like my journal and I'm happy I journal, it won't actually give you self-esteem.
Right.
But if you do something that other people value socially, creates social value, then you will have this self-esteem will increase.
Yeah. Maybe you look at your school as something that you don't have specific pride in, but if you're helping to maintain it,
right
now
and
all
this
of a
is
sudden
what
you do.
Yeah, and this is what they do in Japan, in Korea.
I was just
clean
going to
your
say,
school. Yeah,
this reminds me a lot of in Japan when I was working in public schools. They would have a sojijikan, a cleaning time, and all the kids would get out and they have their different things. But desks get moved to the side.
Right.
People get out rags. They mop the floor back and forth. Make sure they cover the whole.
Yeah.
There's a standard set of procedures that everyone does, and it gives. I mean, I've used this phrase before, but it gives everyone skin in the game and kind of puts them in the somewhat of a power position of being like responsible for part of it.
Right.
Some like
agency.
It's partly theirs.
Yeah.
They have some sense of ownership.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I think that would be great for helping kids with stuff.
Maybe this might explain why I have so much confidence, or so much why I have high self-esteem, but also confidence, is because ever since I was a kid, it was always we got taught how to do our own laundry. When I was 4th grade, I started doing my own laundry. From then on, we were always doing all the lawn work with our dad, clean the house with my mom, and we'd always be doing all these like chores and work. And then from a very early age, we'd go to this summer camp and do work building up the summer camp. So I remember being like 6 years old and painting a fence like freaking Huckleberry Finn, or building like a the screens get beat up and then the bugs can get through. Right. You can actually re-screen by like weaving the metal better. You can knock the frames off and you can fix the screen and then put put the frames back together again. You can actually fix the screens. We did that a lot.
Okay.
Chop wood, they always needed a bunch of wood chopped, all kinds of re-roofed. I remember when I was 12 or 13 years old, they re-roofed the whole lodge of the camp. And like we were there and, you go up a ladder with like 80 pounds of shingles on your shoulders and throw it down. And, it was a lot of
which probably
work.
Doesn't feel great in the moment, like necessarily the labor aspect of it, but feeling needed or feeling useful,
yes,
that I can only see that having a positive impact on your sense of self-worth.
And what do we do in America? We unfortunately, I think we really, from a classist sort of perspective, we treat cleaning things and fixing things as like lower or like bad or like even a punishment. Like,
there's a stigma, to having to like, you have to deal with dirty things or whatever.
Right.
Sure.
Right. And then also, what do we do with girls? Right. We're like, oh no, they don't have, like, who are you going to give the power tools to when you're about to do some project? The boys might step up and be like, yeah, I'm taking the power tool.
Right. Sure.
And the girls might kind of be like, ooh, that's a little bit risky. I don't know about that.
It's a very gendered.
Yeah. We gender it. Right. Yeah. Whereas if we were more equitable, we would actually, what we're doing is we'd actually be spreading out the social value more evenly and giving these girls a protection against eating disorders.
Yeah.
So, which is a little bit, maybe sounds a little far-fetched at this moment, but I think it's something to really reflect on, which is this idea of, if we want to increase self-esteem, the way to do that is to give people opportunities to demonstrate, participate in, and create social value.
Yeah.
Not just value for themselves, but value for a group.
Right.
Their family, their neighborhood, their school, their extended family.
Yeah. Well, and it's going to make you feel more appreciated if you do something that other people outside of yourself appreciate, something that's a service thing where it benefits others too, and they'll appreciate it, and then you feel you're tied to that action, you're tied to that space.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a great. And so this came from a chapter, one of your chapters in Motivate. Yeah,
because people were everywhere I was bumping up against things, the question I was doggedly chasing down was like, how do you motivate people? How do you get the absolute most motivated students? Because I was noticing, like every educator will, super motivated student, you can't stop them from learning a lot. Like, you could try to hinder them and they would like go around you to learn because they're super motivated. So I was like, wait, why don't we just hit that one variable to the roof and then just they'll drive their own learning.
You can try to push knowledge into someone, or you can try to turn on that hunger that is going to make them just gobble it up anyway.
Right.
And that's a way more sustainable thing for them and you.
And as I kind of hunted down that idea, like, well, how do you build the most highly motivating school you could possibly build. And there's a chapter on how to do grades to motivate people. There's a chapter on how lectures are not very good and how you can do what are called peer assisted learning inside of lectures to make it much better, more motivating. And just basically every single element of homes and schools, and also even workplaces, kind of how you can motivate people in a workplace, is all in there. And one thing that kept coming up again and again was this refrain, kind of, hey, self-esteem is really important. And I was always like, is it though? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's right. But then I really dug into the research and the evidence-based research that's only 20 years old. I mean, we've only been doing this research since 2000. Then once I dug into that, then I was like, oh, this is hilarious. This actually increases risk-taking behavior.
Yeah.
So it's not actually doing what people think it's doing, which is like helping people not, smoke cigarettes and drugs and stuff.
Help them curb whatever behaviors
it's actually
they're trying
making
to
them
curb.
do more of that.
They're pushing people toward it. That's I love finding weird paradoxes like that. Those are fascinating in history. And they pop up everywhere.
And there's reasons to get it. Like I actually, honestly, when I first started studying it, I was like, I don't even think we're going to end up needing a lot of, like, what they find is actually Americans, there's no shortage of self-esteem. Americans actually have too much self-esteem, which is called narcissism.
Overconfidence.
Narcissism.
Or just being American.
Yeah. Americans, they love themselves.
Wait a minute. You're saying that a bunch of people who have only been in one country and then declare it the best country that's ever been might have an overconfidence situation?
Yes. It's a big surprise.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a thing. So when you think like, hey, should we get more self-esteem? The answer is really like, no, there's plenty, but I think there's pockets of it where there's too little, like, for example, the eating disorder issue. And not that this is some cure for eating. It's not a cure. It's like I said, it's kind of this sort of vaccine. It sort of reduces the chances, but it's not a cure for anything. Eating disorders are super serious mental illness.
Right.
Once you've contracted it. But that's what the research shows, is it provides this really nice protection against it. But it's just a fascinating thing, and people will enjoy their lives better, if they have more self-esteem. So that's cool.
That seems uncontestable. I would like some more self-esteem. I'm going to dig in on this. So
create some social value, which you do constantly, Scott. Maybe you're a proof to the opposite.
Thank you.
If your self-esteem feels a little like a little balloon.
You know what? My self-esteem number is climbing from the negatives. I'm almost at 0 now. I think we've done.
You hear that, Twitter? Clap your hands.
Almost at 0.
Clap your hands, Twitter. Get Scott over 0.
Well, this is fantastic. This all sounds like great stuff. I would say, I think Motivate by Adam Braus is a great book. It sounds like full of all this knowledge that you've gone out and collected, distilled into these points that can really help, like this one about self-confidence. Fantastic.
It's a long book. It is good. It's especially good for parents, because parents are like, want the best for their kids. They want the kids to learn a lot. They want the kids to be curious. Like, how many every year parents go out at Christmas time or whatever, they buy these gifts, and the gifts say, these toys say, we'll spur your students' creativity.
They make so many promises.
Yeah, curiosity.
Oh my gosh.
Those toys will not do that. But this book will actually tell you how to structure your house and how to communicate, provide praise, how to give feedback, how to build interest. Like, if you want your kid to be interested in science, like, I know that if I have kids, I really want them to be interested in science because I think science is really cool. Mm-hmm. This book actually has a novel way to do that inside of it. Maybe we make another episode on that.
Maybe.
But it's really cool. You can actually build interests out of nothing.
As a parent, I can confirm keeping motivation up in kids especially when they don't necessarily want to do what they're needing to do.
Yeah.
Huge thing. So that's massive.
Yeah, it's all in there. It's a really comprehensive book. It's really the state of the art on the science of motivation. If you read, the real inspiration was if you read Dan Pink's Drive, the book Drive, which is like, that's not state of the art. That's like, he kind of stopped doing his research in the 90s, basically. But there's been a lot since then that's been developed that he doesn't even talk about.
Okay. It's
still important what he talks about. He talks about what's called self-determination theory, which is very important, but it's not like what we've discovered in the last 25 years. And then the other one is Grit by
Angela Duckworth.
Mm-hmm. So actually I take actually issue with it, and I say that actually grit it's not actually what you want. You don't actually want grit, you want grout. Grout.
What's the grit grout difference?
Yeah, so grit is personal toughness, perseverance, and passion put together. So grout is a supportive environment.
Oh, like holding it.
And you actually, if you want somebody to have grit, they absolutely need to have grout first. There is no grit without grout.
No grit without grout.
And so that's kind of an interesting part of the book is like, it's not about people's characters and kind of their inborn whatever. It's more about the environment that they're in. And if you can control that, you can really increase somebody's motivation to learn to the roof.
Because I feel like actually sort of Angela, the grit book was a little demotivational for me at times because part of it, I did read, I've read both of these books you just talked about.
Yeah.
And part of it is she's like, here, you can take this and find out your grit score, how gritty you are.
Right.
And then she's like, and that number never changes. It
Thanks,
always
Angela.
stays and it's stuck. And I'm like, so if I take this test and I get like a really low score that says you're not a very gritty person, you're just saying like, sorry, too bad.
Yeah.
So,
and that's just not true.
I like this idea a lot better because it seems less fatalistic.
Yeah. That she's falling into what's called character bias or false attribution error, which is a common cognitive bias, and people should really be more careful about it, which is that we think that thing you can attribute everything to character. Like, oh, the criminal, the murderer murdered someone because they're a murderer. It's like, yeah, but also like the circumstances that they were in actually are the more determining factor for murder, but also for just something as simple as, do you want to do your homework or not? If you have an environment at home that's conducive towards doing your homework, it's going to be really easy for you to do homework. But if your environment at home is super distracting,
right,
and all kinds of zaniness is going on all the time, and you don't have space, and you don't have time, and you don't have the right lighting, and the right kind of priming, there's no way you're going to get your homework done.
Yeah.
So
setting yourself up for success, setting your space up, to having everything compound to help you,
instead of hurt
compound
you.
to like
right.
be an obstacle.
Yeah. But then we just blame people. We're like, oh, they're lazy. It's really not. Human beings are all roughly the same. Mm-hmm. We're all like curious and active if we're given the environment to do that in. So,
that seems way more logical than just like some people are just don't work.
Some people are just Eeyore, and
sorry about your luck. It's never going to work out for you. Yeah. Oh man, really? Yeah. No matter what I do, no matter what you do, it's just inborn.
Yeah, that doesn't seem right. Yeah.
No, this is great. I will be digging into this further. This is excellent.
Yeah, so, I'll have to get you a copy of the book. I got it right here.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Adam, for bringing this one. I'm excited. This is a good one.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening, tuning in.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.
More to come. Hey there. Thanks for listening to that episode of Solutions from the Multiverse.
Yeah, we're back with a little after roll. Hello.
Hey, after roll. Roll that after roll. So basically, we want you to subscribe.
Yeah.
And rate and review. And tell someone, like, take your favorite solution and send it to someone who you think would like blow their mind to hear it.
Yeah, we love making the show. We're proud of it. And we're excited. We want other people to show. We know that the main way people find podcasts is word of mouth. I know that's true for me. I listen to my friends who also listen to podcasts tell me about ones, and I go, okay, I'm cluing into that. So we want to be part of that chain.
So thanks for being a part of Solutions.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again real soon.
Bye.
Bye.